Shalom, shalom, shalom. Yisrael El Yahonathan Da. We with you here in what they call the 13th of March, 2022. Yahweh for Christians. I just told Yahweh for you this day, and it is very humbling to be at this microphone to speak with Yahweh's finest, and I don't take it lightly. It is an honor to be able to be on here and share the word of Yah as He gives it to me, and I give it to you. Now, I didn't want to start with Daniel Revelations and then break for Pesach and then go back to Daniel Revelations. So I'm going to finish the Prelude today, and I have a whole lot of stuff going on. Running in here late, and I don't have my my notes, but Pesach is going to be, we're going to have the next service going to be Pesach, and I don't have my notes here, but it will be on the 17th sunset, and that's when it starts. And it's very important to get this right, because 3 days later is when you have the wave sheaf, and wave sheaf is all about Yahweh and Yahweh receiving His sacrifice. Because if we didn't receive that sacrifice, then we will still be lost in our sins. But let's finish, and we're going to talk about in detail. Matter of fact, I'm going to have probably like a daily 5 or 10 minute talk from my home office on Pesach. Okay. Now, last week, in talking about Daniel Revelations, we're going to do a setup of the information, because when it comes down to it, Yahweh only has one people. He has one people, and He has a remnant. But He has two enemies. Who are those two enemies? At the end of the age, there's only two groups of people on the earth. There's not all these different groups of peoples. Yahweh scattered us all, and Yahweh's going to bring us all back together and setting everybody up for either salvation or judgment. And that's it. There's only two things that are happening, yet you have all these different beasts, all these different horns, and people get confused, and it gets confusing as to who is who and what is what. But we use the KISS method here. Keep it simple, saints, and we're going to figure that out. But there are some things to understand first, and that is, like Yahweh says, is that history recycles and repeats. This is what Shlomo told us in Ecclesiastes 1, 8, and 9. And that is, whatever happened before will happen again. The thing about prophecy is really the discernment of patterns. And also prophecy only comes from he who speaks in the name of Yahweh Shua HaMashiach. The fear of Yahweh is the beginning of knowledge. So it's in the name of Yahweh Shua will He reveal prophecy to those who have discernment of patterns. It's not prediction. It's not prediction. It's prophecy and having discernment of the times. Yahweh told us in Isaiah 46:10 that He tells us the end from the beginning. So if you want to know anything about the end times, you're going to have to study those, believe it or not, that first few chapters of Genesis, of Bereshit. Matter of fact, the first word Bereshit. As a matter of fact, the first letter of Bereshit, the Beit. The letter Beit is packed full of information to tell us about the end times. It's that deep. And then we talked about how the people don't understand about this knowledge increasing. I had a discussion with someone in social media, and I had to let them go. And unfortunately, I'm someone who has 31 followers, and I said I wanted to do on the channel, YouTube channel, do something to try to expand that, but I'm not, because it really hurts to see so many people out there in this, what they call the Hebrew movement, speaking without knowledge and not respecting someone who has the time in. The amount of time I've known this name is more than what most people out there even have been in the name or even been alive, these new brews. And we talked about that in the Leviticus 26, 27 through 45 tells us about how long we were going to be under a curse and without knowledge of Yahweh. And then Ezekiel 4, 1 through 6 prophesies when it would be over, this 7 times curse. I'm saying that because when Revelation talks about the knowledge, or actually when Yahushua and Matthew is talking about knowledge increasing, people get that one statement misconstrued. Talking about knowledge increasing, they think it's about technology, and it's not. Everyone, I've not heard anyone say anything differently, whether it's Christian, Hebrew, or anything that different than when knowledge increases. Now we can talk about how we make planes, trains, and automobiles and weaponry. Knowledge increasing is not that. Because at any time in history, whether it was even before the flood, there was always an increasing of knowledge. So it was not that. What it was the knowledge of Yahushua. That's what the statement means. And you heard it here first. The knowledge of Yahushua. And when did that explode? In 2008. And that was prophesied in Leviticus 26, 27 through 45, and Ezekiel 4, 1 through 6. So most of you are new brews. Most of you came to the knowledge that has increased and exploded on this world in around 2008. And then start picking up until around 2000 with internet, and then exploded with your smartphones. So now you think you're smarter than people who've been around before the age of the internet. Right now, doctors have a hard time because everybody comes to the doctor's office diagnosing themselves and diagnosing the what kind of medications to give them to ameliorate whatever problems they have. They come in knowing more than the doctor. They come in knowing more than the dentist. They know more than the mechanic. They come in with their smartphones already knowing. They just want you to go ahead and do whatever they want you to do. And it's the same thing with preachers. Everybody come in, they learn something, and they go ahead and Google, which is what babies do. And they go ahead and know more than the preacher. Or they know more than the teacher, somebody who researches. Now today, people use their 2 thumbs and get on their smartphones. And I call them 2 dumb thumbs. Get on their smartphones and they Google, and they call that research. That is not research. I remember when I was in school, you can only use, when we had to do research, we could only use our encyclopedia for one source. You still had to get other sources because that was the closest you can get to an internet was having an encyclopedia. And I said, wow, but whatever I need to know, I can find an encyclopedia. And you tell me I got to get other resources? So way back when I was young, I knew, you have to actually go out and go to a library. At least, that's the least thing. And look and research and look up other books and other people who studied deeper than just opening up an encyclopedia. But there's other things you have to do more than that if you're a researcher. You have to travel. You have to actually visit places, people and things, interview people. You have to touch and handle things that you're talking about. If you have so much knowledge, what's the difference between you and an 8-year-old? Both of you have smartphones and you think you know how to pronounce the name of Yahweh. Or you think you know about the origins of the so-called races of man. What makes you better than an 8-year-old when both of you have the smartphones? Please respect a brother who's been around and who has researched. And I just whipped out my 2 dumb thumbs with a smartphone to try to get some knowledge. We still got Hebrews out there going back and forth about when the Pesach begins. And I made an error last week because I was going by my old notes. So yes, I do make mistakes, but my research is tight. And I didn't even bring my notes in today because of different things I had to do this morning. Trust me, I go through a lot to get this out to you every week. And I do not miss a week. Yet, difficulties arise all the time. So I'm going to go ahead and try to wing it here today, and it will be done. Yahweh, your power will be with me this day on this mic. With your children, oh Yah, my strength, my Redeemer. Hallelujah, Yeshua. So we find out that going forward, that I was read in Ezra's 6:9, second Ezra's 6:9, that what causes going on right now, what you see right now, is fear. All the world is trying to put the general population of the world in fear. As a matter of fact, there's only a few people controlling everything you get. That's why you cannot just get on your smartphones and think you know stuff. There's only a few men on the earth controlling every information that you get. I'm being allowed to give what I'm giving to you now. Of course, Yahweh ultimately is in control. Yes, we know that. Extent of that, what I'm saying is, consider your sources. All your information you're getting is being allowed. The reason why we even being allowed to give deeper knowledge now is because we can't do anything to stop what we know now. You can't stop what they're doing on to the dome right now. All those planes flying at the same height. You notice it's always the same height, and they're marking their dome, because what's going to be set up is a huge deception on the whole world when they look up to that sky and see what they're going to see on that dome. You're going to have to stay with Yahweh with here on Yahweh for Christians to see this. And the only reason why we know about this now is because there's nothing you can do to stop it. This world is pointed to singularity. Singular, like it was before the Tower of Babel. Yahweh distributed everyone at the Tower of Babel, babbling like a baby. And he is going to allow us to be brought back together again. And Esau, his seed, they are in fear. And they want you to be in fear of everything. Fear of COVID, fear of gas prices, fear of wars. There's never been an end of day of wars. There's only been a handful of days in the history of the world since the first war after the flood that we have not been in war. So talking about wars does not give you a sign of the end of the times. What day? Get your calendars out, get the history out, and see what day were there nations were not in war with other nations. That's not new. But Yaakov, our world begins when Esau's world ends. 2nd Ezra 6:9. We should not be in fear. We should walk around in strength and the power and the might of the knowledge of Yahweh HaMashiach. Another thing that will help you understand Daniel Revelation is to realize that in the temptation and the fall, that it is the woman's seed that crushes the head of Hasatan, not the man's seed. And also that there was two different kinds of falls. The woman was deceived. So there's going to be a different kind of reconciliation and salvation for her. The man was not deceived. He sinned by choice. So there's a different kind of reconciliation and for the man's seed. So this is why sometimes it seems confusing as to what's going on in Daniel Revelations, because you're not understanding that. Also, Yahweh has two enemies. So there's two different kind of judgments. So two different kind of salvation, two different kind of judgments. And once you study this thing and not just get your thumbs out and Google stuff, I'm going to tell you a lot of things that you can't Google. I'll always tell you things that you can't Google. Ruach HaKodesh is the ultimate source of downloading your information. Yes. Yes. We always use the tools we have on our tool belt to give information out. You think that the first century fathers, the 12 apostles, including Shaul, the way they wrote their letters and what we now have the New Testament, do you think the way they transported their information was the same way as Ezekiel did, and Jeremiah, and Ezekiel, and Ezra? I mean, the information, whatever they had at that time, they used to give out the information. So yes, we do use the current technology, but our source, our primary sources, our only source is Ruach HaKodesh, who leads us into all understanding. The fear of Yahweh, not Lord God Baal Tamar, is the beginning of knowledge. You're going to get to know anything. You're going to have to fear Yahweh. Now, we talked about, I don't know, let's start today, 2 Thessalonians 2, 1 through 12. This is the great apostasy, 2 Thessalonians 2, 1 through 12. This is the day of Yahweh and man. 2 Thessalonians 2, 1 through 12. Now, brethren, concerning the coming of our Master Yahweh HaMashiach and our gathering together to him, we ask you not to be soon shaken in mind or troubled, either by spirit or by word or by letter, as if from us, as though the day of the Messiah had come. Let no one deceive you by any means, because that day will not come unless the falling away comes first, and the man of sin is revealed, the son of perdition, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called Elohim, or that is worship, so that he sits as Yahweh in the bed of Yahweh, showing himself that he is Yahweh. Remember how Satan said, I will do this and I'll be that and I'm going to be as Yah? He didn't say he was going to be Yah. He said I was going to be like the Most High. Verse 5. Do you not remember that when I was still with you, I told you these things? And now you know what is restraining, that he may be revealed in his own time. See, the assembly in Thessalonica was thinking that they were being lied to by Esau's crew, that the Messiah had already come. And they had missed out, that they were left behind. Shaul had to clear this up. All of the assemblies that were established by the original first 12 forefathers were infiltrated by them, just like we were coming out of Exodus with a mixed multitude, our Edomite brothers, sowing tares with the wheat. This is why you had so many letters in the book of Revelation and the Brit Hadashah, which you call the New Testament, because of all the infiltration of lies and people thinking they know something and trying to undo what people like Shaul and Peter and the rest of them did. Verse 8. And then the lawless one will be revealed, whom Yahweh will consume with the breath of his mouth and destroy with the brightness of his coming. The coming of the lawless one is according to the working of Hasatan, with all power, signs, and lying wonders. All power, signs, and lying wonders. Lying wonders. Please do not put your faith in miracles, which would, I've said it so many times, I wrote on it so many times. We're looking for miracles and miracles and miracles instead of a relationship with Yahweh Shua. We want the grand slam instead of a daily walking, working relationship with Yahweh Shua. The greater the miracle, the weaker the faith. The greater there's a correlation, a mathematical correlation between your faith and Yahweh's presentation to you. If Yahweh got to show you this and show you that so much, that means that's how little faith you have. The greater faith you have in Yahweh, the less you need him to go ahead and roar and show himself. Verse 10. And with all unrighteous deception among those who perish. See? For those who perish, they're going to fall for these miracles and signs, because they did not receive the ohab of emet, the love of truth, that they might be saved. And for this reason, Yahweh will send them strong delusion that they should believe the lie. Ha-shekar. The lie. So there is really at the end days one lie. For who? For those who are perishing. To what? A strong delusion. Yahweh's going to allow them this strong delusion. If you're not going to believe in a simple thing like, I am Yahweh, that is my name. Something simple like that. And my glory when I not give to another. Then you're going to believe anything else. That the earth is spinning and wobbling and millions of miles from the sun and all this other nonsense. That we're on a globe. This is a great delusion that people are being allowed to have. Because this is part of the lie. I'm not going to give away everything. But it takes a mind that refuses simple truths. Simple truths. before Yahweh will go ahead and give you over to a debased mind of greater delusions. And it's being made right now. The dome of the earth is being graffitied right now. And wait till it is revealed. Why? Let me ask you this. Why would there need to be a patent on the sun? A patent? About 60 years ago, you had a patent on the sun. Now, I don't remember how long. There has a patent on the moon. And I don't remember when. Maybe about 20 years ago. Patent on the moon. You tell me why. I already know why. The record says that these signs and wonders are going to be so great that the greatest of Yahweh's people, the most elect, his most elect and discerned ones, would be deceived. Sun, moon, and stars. You should today, while I'm speaking, know the reality of where the sun is, how far it is, the moon and what it is and what shape it is, and the stars. But if you believe in your education that you have gotten from the Erev Rav, who are controlling all of your knowledge and information that you're being given, not listening to your sages who are teaching you in the unlaven name of Yahweh Shua, you will fall for the lie and the great delusion that Yahweh is giving, is allowing you to have. Verse 11. I'm reading it again. And for this reason, Yahweh will send them strong delusion, that they should believe HaShekor, the lie. There's one lie. And they all may be condemned who did not believe the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. See, if you're enjoying living your best life here now, then you are ripe and set up for the lie. Y'all is going to allow your brain and the heart of your mind to be deluded. Just want to stop by here and tell you that. Exodus 19, 1 through 9. Exodus. I'm rolling here with not all my notes. Exodus 19, 1 through 9. In the third month, after the children of Israel had gone out of the land of Mizraim, on the same day they came to the wilderness of Sinai, because they had departed from Rephidim and come to the wilderness of Sinai and camped in the wilderness. So Israel camped there before the mountain. And Moses went up to Elohim, and Yahweh called to him from the mountain, saying, "Thus you will say to the house of Jacob, the bed of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel, the Eldot of Israel, you have seen what I did to the Egyptians, and how I bore you on eagle's wings, and brought you to myself. Now, therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, then you will be a special treasure to me above all people. For all the earth is mine." The earth is Yahweh's. You hear what he said? So whatever you learn in school is not true. Because they're going to teach, the Hasatan, the accusers, are going to teach the opposite of what Yahweh teaches. That's important. "And you will be to me a kingdom of priests and a Kodesh nation. These are the words which you will speak to the children of Israel." So Moshe came and called for the elders of the people and laid before them all these words which Yahweh commanded him. Then all the people answered together and said, "All that Yahweh has spoken we will do." So Moshe brought back the words of the people to Yahweh. He said, "Hey Yahweh, hey," they said, "listen, we're going to do everything you said. Whatever you said, we're going to do it." They haven't heard one word from Yahweh, right? And Yahweh said to Moshe, "Look, I come to you in the thick cloud, that the people may hear when I speak with you and believe you forever." So Moses told the words to the people of Yahweh. So to this day, you got a select group that's going to believe Moshe forever, or whatever Yahweh says later. And we agreed that whatever Yahweh said, even before we heard, we was going to do it. But what happened? When you go to the next chapter and verses 18 and 19, we shrieked in horror. Yahweh came down to marry us. We were betrothed when we came out of Mizraim. That was a marriage under the moon. Now, it was just a contractual one, but in Iberit history, when that, just like with Yusuf and Miriam, even though they had not consummated the marriage, they were legally married. And that's the way that the Hebrew culture was. So it's just like being married. And today we just piss on the beauty and the sanctity of marriage. We test out the car and drive around the block before we go in and sit down with it. That's what we do. That's what we're guilty of. But the Sadiq way, the righteous way, is announced that this is going to be my wife, and then whatever the time period is, then you get married. But before that, you cannot do nothing else. If you want to break out of that, you have to go to court, like you actually literally went down the aisle and broke and stomped on the glass and all that stuff under the hoopah. So we did the legal contract with Yahweh coming out of Mizraim. Then a month later, we were supposed to marry Yahweh. When Exodus 9, when the Ten Commandments was being read, that was he was coming down to marry us. And we street back and said, no, you just talked to us, Moshe. So that's what happened. And we ended up, then a month later, we were supposed to have then gone in and taken the land. Because after a man marries his wife, he does not supposed to go out to war for a certain time period. At that time period, we was going to go in and take the land. None of that happened. We end up 40 years wandering around in our foolishness. And we still, to this day, have not been formally married to Yahweh. So that's going to come. We're going to talk about it in Revelations when that actually happens. Because it still has not happened. It would have happened long ago. But we're the ones that shriek back. And that's important to know. This is important. No, I'm saying this for a reason. I don't know read scriptures just to fill up time. I can do 2 hours every week. I can talk on here every day for an hour. If you will go ahead and support the brother with the money. So now let's talk about. Remember this. Now let's go back to Matthew. Let's go to Matthew 22:34. Matthew 22:34. And we're going to talk about these commandments. Okay, Matthew 22:34 through 40. And this is Yahushua. This is him answering to the Pharisees. Okay, this is his answer. But when the Pharisees heard that he had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered together. Then one of them, a lawyer. Are there going to be any lawyers saved in heaven? A lawyer asked him a question, testing him and saying, Rabbi, which is the greatest commandment in the law? Yahushua said to him, you will love Yahweh, your Elohim, with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and great commandment, and the second is like it. You will love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the Nabaim, the prophets. All the law. Yahushua did the kiss method. He answered this with the kiss. To keep it simple, saints. Right before that, when we read in Exodus, where Yahweh said, I'm going to speak through you, Moshe. Remember, Moshe was the oracle. The first 4 so-called books of the Bible, the whole time that Moshe was speaking, there was literally Yahushua speaking through him. Moshe was the oracle, the literal oracle. He was the physical body resonating the words of Yahushua through him. Deuteronomy, Moshe was speaking as the prophet. Okay, he was not speaking as the oracle in the book of Deuteronomy, the so-called Devarim. He wrote that as a prophet. But all his other writings before that, he was the oracle. And Yahweh says they're going to believe you forever. Forever. And I'm saying this for a reason. I want you to remember this when we talk about Daniel Revelations. What the great deception is going to be. They're going to believe Moshe forever. But right here, Yahushua spoke. Remember, Yahushua was the one speaking. There's only a few times in the whole Bible where it's Yahweh speaking. Everything else is Yahweh. Yahweh spoke for him. And now right here, talking to the lawyers, the scribes, and the Pharisees and Sadducees, he's saying that the commandments hang on two things: loving him and loving his image. His image is you, me, man, not mankind. Please hear the words I'm saying. They are purposeful and meaningful. On this earth, we have man and mankind. Man is made after Yahweh's image. Yahweh said the two commandments that we're supposed to be keeping today, as I speak to you on this mic, is to love Yahweh and to love man. Man is his image. Love Yahweh and love Yahweh's image. Today, it's just like in the days of Noah. 10 billion beasts, mankind on the earth. Noah, his wife and his 3 sons were pure. They got 3 wives from Methuselah in Methuselah's line. They were partially tainted. So in the ark, in safety, all mankind died, but you still had. And if you look at how the genes work, you have epigenes. Epigenes only become a phenotype. Phenotype means physical manifestation, like brown eyes, blue eyes, curly hair, straight hair. Well, you have genes, then you have epigenes. Epigenes need a certain kind of environment to make a physical presentation, or a phenotype. So these 3 wives of Noah's 3 sons had the epigenes for mankind, like all those who died in the flood. And it would take Torah breaking and not keeping the commandments, final laws, for those epigenes to come out and become phenotypes. So once again, we end up being tainted again, of course. But that's some side information. I'm giving you deep stuff here. Yahweh says, in the days of Noah, so will today's times be. So you're going to have the whole world eventually being mankind. This started in the beginning, in the Bereshit. The first mankind was the serpent. It was Hasatan inside of a female serpent. You learned that here. You cannot Google this. That was the world's first drag queen. Hasatan was inside of a female serpent. So that was girl talk at the tree of good and evil. Mother Hawa talking to a female serpent with a man's voice. Hasatan is all of the heavenly hosts are males. Hasatan, a male, was inside of a female serpent, beguiling Mother Hawa, the world's first drag queen. So that was also the first mankind. You had a serpent who walks upright like a man. The only creature on the earth that walked like a man. No creatures on the earth move like man today. We have a unique gait. If you just saw the shadow of a man and put it next to it a shadow of any other kind of creature on the earth, you know the difference between a man and any other creature. Especially if those two creatures moved. If you see the man walk just as shadow, and the other creature walk, you will see there's a difference. The first mankind was the serpent. This is why Hasatan entered the serpent, because it was the one that's most like man. That's going to happen again today. You're going to have man and mankind. Every day you see people who are not real people. They may have served you in the supermarket, in a restaurant. You may have gone to them in this furniture store and they sold you furniture, bought your car from them. You see them at the red light, as in the days of Noah. And Yahweh says you need to love man and mankind, and man, his image. The whole thing about the beast is corrupting Yahweh's image. This is Yehonatan Dawivi here on the famous 1590 AM Yahweh for Christians. This is a prelude to Daniel Revelations, which we're going to do in 2 weeks, because next week we're going to do Pesach. Now, Isaiah 42 and 8. No, let's not do that. Let's remember, I'm winging it a little bit here. So these commandments, going back to these commandments, Yahweh kept it simple, right? He broke it down to 2, not 613 like Moshe gave us. So this means that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob had the 613. They had the commandments, but they lived out the 2. They had the 613. They kept them all. Now I can go back to there. It shows that Yahweh says that Abraham kept his commandments and his judgments and his statutes. That was way before Moshe. That means before it was even written down, they knew what they had to do. And then on this day, the 13th of March, you know what you're supposed to be doing. You should. Yahweh says that he who has an ear, let him hear. 7 times. 7 times. Yahweh says when he had this. I'm talking this just in Revelations alone. When I'm going to give you a big tip here. Whenever you hear something repeated over and over and over and over again in the Bible, hello, get a clue. Selah. Stop, pause, and think on it. Selah. Pause on it and think, why does he keep saying this over and over again? You must understand when he says something, he says he who has an ear, that's a Hebraism. Discern what was just spoken. Here, during the time of after the resurrection of Yahweh, there was no argument about how to pronounce Yahweh's name. None. As a matter of fact, in the so-called Old Testament, there was never an argument about how to say Yahweh's name. The debate was whether they were going to worship other mighty ones, not how to say Yahweh's name. Yet today, we got people called New Brews who come after the invention and creation of the internet, who call on Yahweh all kinds of names. There was none of this problem in the Bible. And in the Brit Hadashah, the New Testament, there are no debates. They were debating about circumcision. There was no debate about when the Shabbat was. No debate about keeping the feast days. No debate on how to say Yahweh's name. Zero. There's not one verse, not one line, not one word of debate in the entire Old Testament about how to say Yahweh's name. None about how to say Yahweh's name. There was those who didn't have the Ruach HaKodesh who couldn't say it because they couldn't use the sh sound. There was admonition about not preaching in that name, but they didn't say, how do you say his name? Do you think when Yahweh thundered from Mount Sinai and pronounced his name, that they got it confused from Yahweh's mouth on how to say his name? There was no confusion. Why is there confusion today? Because Hasatan has you fooled with your increase of knowledge on your smartphones. Because when I was growing up with this, there was no other way to say Yahweh's name but Yahweh. There was no Yahuwah, Yahweh. And Yahshua, there was Yahshua, which is fine, but the more perfect way of saying it is Yahweh. There was no Yahashua and Yahushua and Yahshua. That's because none of you went out and actually sat into an actual literal Hebrew class. You got your thumbs out and you repeat what you heard. You knew it couldn't have been no English, Latin, and German and Spanish. You knew that, so you knew it couldn't have been the Lord God Jesus Christ. Good. That's a good step. But it's definitely not what you're saying out of your throats today. If you follow me, you'll get it right. I happen to have a couple of good books for you to purchase. Matter of fact, I'll give them to you. Just contact the brother. I'll give them to you. It's already paid for anyway. It ain't hurting me. Yahweh says that it is you that I love. When we talk about Daniel Revelations, these last days, there's only 2 groups of people. Man after Yahweh's image and the corrupted image by Esau. The Edomites who corrupts the rest of the world's image. Remember, again, something you cannot Google is that how was Esau created? Out of the seed of Isaac. Right there on the altar when he was about to be sacrificed by his father Abraham. When he saw Hasatan over the left shoulder of his father Abraham, he saw the very face of Hasatan, the very image, and it scared him to the core, corrupting part of his seed. That's how Jacob came out Tom, pure and smooth, like the Bible says, like the word says, he came out pure, calm, and smooth. And Esau came out ugly, hairy, and red. By beholding are you changed. You are genetically changed by what you see. Your faith is increased by what you hear. But there is a phenotype, a physical change in the genes based on what goes into your eyeballs and hits your retina. We know that's true. How do you think Jacob changed the sheep from where they looked to spotted and speckled and striped? By what they saw, by what he put in front of their faces while they were mating. While they were mating with the male sheep and goats on the female sheep and goats, while they were mating, sharing their genes, sharing their gene pool, he made them look at the poplar grove striped and speckled. And why? Because he knows the law of how things change by what you look at. There's no way you can look at porn for any time, really. Once you see the image, you can't take it out of your mind and then not be changed. Especially having a pattern of it. It changes you. This is how this image was created. And Esau went on and mixed his seed with beasts and other men and all the other nations. And you're going to have two seeds at the end of days. You only got it here from Yahweh, on Yahweh for Christians first. And I still haven't heard it nowhere else. And you can't Google it. And this is why Yahweh said in Malachi 1, 2, and 3, I have loved you and Esau I have hated. Before the man came out the womb, Yahweh said, I hate him. You think, oh, Yahweh couldn't see what was in the womb? He knew that was the seed of Hasatan, his enemy. That's why Yahweh, and he used the word sane, which is the Hebrew word for hate. Notice how the English word for sane is a good word. Oh, he's in his sane mind. See, in English, that's good. But in Ibarit, it's bad. It means hate. The Hebrew word for hate is sane. And Yahweh says, I sane Esau. I need sane Esau. I hate Esau. Why? Because he knew where he came from. The seed of Hasatan. And when Esau's world ends, ours begins. This is why you got them out there controlling all your media. And there's nothing you do about it now. How many people you got speaking like I'm speaking on this mic? How many? There's no other broadcast like this one right here. None other. There is no other. If it is, contact the brother, let me know, because I will listen to it myself. There is no other. Yahweh says in Amos 3, 1 and 2, you only have I known. In Hebrew, what is that word known? It's not about, yeah, I know 1 + 1 = 2. I know the sky is blue and the grass is green. That's not what the Hebrew word for known means. The Hebrew word for known means relationship. Yahweh says, only you, in Amos 3, 1 and 2, only you have I had a relationship with. I only have a covenant with you. So therefore, only you will be judged by this covenant. Only you will be rectified and saved in grace by how you keep it. The 613 for judgment or the 2 for grace. So you got one seed out there trying to keep the 613 and get to the command and get to the kingdom, because he despised his birthright. And you got the other one who keeps the 2 and is going to receive grace. Only you have I had a relationship with. That's not me saying it. Yahweh said it. Let's stick here in the book of Matthew 7. Matthew chapter 7. Verses 21, 22, and 23. Matthew chapter 7, verses 21, 22, and 23. And this is Yahweh talking about false professions. This is Yahweh talking. Not everyone who says to me, Master, Master, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father in Hashemayim. Many will say to me in that day, Yah, Yah, have we not prophesied in your shame? The Hebrew word for name is shame. It's not Shem. It's not Shem, like you have been told. The Hebrew word for name is shame. And isn't it interesting that in English, the language I'm speaking right now, which is a language of slavery, isn't it interesting that in English the word shame is bad, it's a bad word? If somebody says you did something shameful, that means you did something bad. But in Hebrew, the word shame is a good thing. It's your name. You can have a bad name, but in Yahweh it's a good name. Many will say to Yah, have we not prophesied in your name, in your shame, cast out demons in your shame, and done many wonders in your shame? And then I will declare to them, I never knew you. I never had a relationship with you. Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness. Now, this is what people are getting mixed up. They think, reading these few verses here, that there's a separation, that this is Jesus talking about the Christian world against other faiths. Mormons, Islam, Hare Krishna, whatever. But it's not. This is all Hebrew talk. These people spoke in Yahweh's name. They called on Yahshua's name. They called on his name. This is not any other religions. This is all of the ones who are supposed to be the sheep of the house of Israel. This is Ephraim. They said, we did it in your name. He didn't deny that. Yahushua didn't say, nope, you didn't. You did miracles, yes. You did great things, yes. You did wonders, Yahushua said. He did not deny it. What he said was, I never had a relationship with you, though. He didn't say you called me the wrong name, called me by the wrong name, and He didn't say you were Catholic. He didn't say you were Christian. He didn't say you were Mormon. He said you were fake Hebrews. And he said, depart from me. I never had a relationship with you. And I'm looking at social media every day with Hebrews who don't have no relationship with Yahweh. They don't have one. They don't have one. They're out there blasting and cursing and trying to correct people. The internet is not the place for no long, deep discussions. You give a little blurb, you keep it moving. You don't do no deep, whole, long stuff trying to teach really like that. First of all, you got to learn it and walk it. Sit down under somebody who knows something. Just calm down, sit down and shut up for a while and listen. Because he says, depart from me, I never knew. That means I never have a relationship with you. Did you know what the word know mean in Hebrew? Did you even know that? It means relationship. And it takes a relationship with Yahweh Shua. Intimacy, a daily working one. You don't come to your wife once a week talking about you want something from her. You don't talk to her every now and then. You don't go to her every other day. You daily are with your wife. Unless you were out of town for business or something. You are daily with your children that's grown and they are out, but you have a little toddler and then you're going to just deal with your toddler every other day, twice a week. It's a daily working relationship and it builds knowledge, trust, understanding, growth, and power. Yahweh Shua says, build on me, hear and do. Don't just shema. You got to asa. You got to do the work of his Father. Not just hear it and keep it moving. He says hear and do. It's a two-part process. Here, Isaiah 42:8. Something simple. Keep it simple, saints. I am Yahweh. That is my name. And he said it's his memorial name. Do you know what the word memorial means? Even in the slave language of English. It's a memory. Isaiah did not call him Lord God Jesus Christ. There was no such thing during that time. There was no such thing as a Lord in the time of Isaiah. No such thing as a God. Well, God was one of the names of one of the sons of Jacob. We spell it Gimel Dalet, pronounced God. But it was not what we call a deity. There was no Jehovah Jesus. There was no J sound. There was no Christ. He said, I am Yahweh. This is simple. How simple can you be? It's just as simple as eat from that tree, don't eat from this one. Yet you doing just like Mother Hawa did in the Garden of Eden, getting something simple wrong. How you can't get it more simple than that? Yahweh Shua says, love me and love your fellow man. Are you getting that wrong? You're going to be arguing with somebody where how they keep the Pesach. He said, love me, love your fellow man like you love yourself. Two things. And I've been on this area over 4 years. I've been doing this thing for 42 years, and I can't get people to understand two simple things. How simple can it be? It can't be more simple. It cannot be more simple. You can't get less than two. Because if you have one, you don't have a relationship. You need two for a relationship. And that begets fruitfulness. Remember, the first commandment ever given to the creation was to be fruitful. So it takes two. The right two. Like I said, you can't have two men on an island and think you're going to get anywhere. Because I don't care how healthy and strong and young they are, they will die eventually. And the island will be empty. You can't get two women. I don't care how young, healthy, and beautiful they are. Nothing they can do to get a third. The island will die, and the island will be empty. It's simple. It's simple, Kadashim. It's simple, saints. It's simple. It's simple. Are you simple? You know what? I'm simple, Yahweh. I just go ahead and call you by your name. I just go ahead and believe what you say. I don't try to go ahead and add on to it. I don't leaven it up. That's why we got the leavened bread coming up. Yahweh Shua said in Matthew 16, who do you say I am? He said, yeah, you want to say I'm rabbi, I'm teaching all that stuff, but who do you say I am? And this is why he said in Matthew 7:23, depart from me because I never knew you. I never had a relationship with you. Because if you can't answer what he said in Matthew 16:15 about who you say I am, you can't answer that, then you don't know me. You mean tell me you married to me? You married to a woman, you don't know her name? You have children that you gave a name and you forgot their name? You know, like I said, there's only a few times in the whole Bible where Yahweh himself speaks. And one of them was in Matthew 17:5. And what did he say? This is my son. Shema Oto. Shema Oto. Hear him. This is my son. Ani Bain. Bain, son. He said, Shema Oto. Hear him. He said, I'm pleased with him. Because he heard and did. He Shema and he Asa. He heard and he did. He did both. He didn't just run his mouth. He did action. Obedience. He loved Yahweh and he loved me. And he loved you too. And if you love him, you should know who he is. Because if you don't, you're ripe for deception. When we talk about there in Revelations, you're all set up. You're set up like a softball on a 3-0 pitch with the bases loaded. You're set up. He's going to lob it in there and you're going to hit it. And you're set up for a grand slam of deception. Grand slam of deception. Simple. Isaiah 42. I am Yahweh. Powerful. John 8:58 and 59. Yahweh Shua says, before Abraham, I was. I was. And what happened? Just show you how much the Arab Rav hate Yahweh Shua, hate his name, which is why they got you open up your mouth saying Yahashua or Yahuwah, saying stuff that's not him, because that name frightens him and it scares him. This is why Arab Rav, when Yahweh Shua says, before Abraham was, I am, he didn't say I was, he said I am, he said Hayah. They tried to stone him. They tried to throw him off the cliff, push him off the cliff, because he cut them to the heart. Yahweh Shua cut him in the heart, because they knew what he was saying. They knew he was saying, I created all things. I am. And they hated that. Read it. John 8:58 and 59. See how they responded to what he said. Now look at this stark difference that you didn't notice. If you go to the same book, John 18:5 and 6, when he said the same thing, he said, who y'all looking for? What y'all want? They said, we're looking for Yahweh Shua. Here I am. And what happened? The power of that name. The Romans fell back. When Yahweh Shua proclaimed who he was, Hayah, they fell back by the force of the power of his name that came out of his mouth. They fell back and fell to the ground backwards in fear. Because all he said was who he was. But the reason why they didn't hate him, because they don't know him. These are Romans. These are not those under the covenant. But those who knew who Yahweh was supposed to follow him, they end up hating him and tried to stone him. But the Romans who don't know him, well, they just fell back by the natural power of the name. And that's going to be response at the end days, the natural power of the name. They don't have no intimacy with Yahweh. They have no relationship with him. They have no reason to know what I am means. So they didn't hate him for saying who he was, but the power of the word, the force of it made them fall back. 6 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 times in Revelations alone, Revelations 3, 10, 6, 10, 11, 10, 13, 8, 13 and 14, and 14, 6. Yahweh talks about judgment upon those who live on the earth. I don't have time now, but I'm going to go into detail with it in 2 weeks. Or when we get into this. Why would he say those who live on the earth? Don't you live on the earth? So apparently it's not just that you physically walk and live and breathe on the earth. It's about those who have a relationship with the earth. Those who say they can't wait till COVID get over so we can go back to our life, our best life. Those who have an investment into the earth. Those whose minds and hearts are invested into the earth is who's going to receive judgment. Remember I told you when Yahweh says, when you see and read in the Bible anything that's repetitive over and over again, you need to stop and pause and think on it. You can't Google what I just said. Those who live on the earth. Why would he say those who live on the earth when there are Sadiq people on the earth during the same time? Aren't they all living? Aren't they all breathing? But Yahweh's talking about pronouncing judgment on those who live on the earth. So living on the earth is a Hebraism for something else. And what it is those who are invested in the earth. Invested in Bitcoin. Invested in stocks and bonds. Invested on the earth success. Coming out of that. Continuing trade and transactions. Overcoming COVID. Trying to end wars. Those who are invested in the future of the world to continue. If you love Yahweh, you look forward to the end of this world. Because then the end of this world begins your world. So why would you be one of those who want to continue to invest in the earth? It doesn't make sense. It's going to end. Did you read the last verses of Revelations? This world's going to end. What's your investment into it? So next week we're going to talk about, we're going to go into Pesach. And then we're going to come back to this. Go ahead. So until then, Yahweh found that we here. Yahweh for Christians. Shalom Aleichem. Peace be on you.